on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
As always, it's a great day here in the Colorado Mountains, mainly because I got my buddy on the show. He is a Chief Master Sergeant retired, Bryan Tuman. I don't know why it sounds like a native man, a native name, Bryan. And when I think of it, I think in native terms, two man. There's a reason you were named that for some reason. You're
Yeah.
But anyway, I always go back to my native roots, and I've tried to, kind of confuses me. Why is he two man? Because he's only one guy. Anyway, although I've heard that I've heard that you've been in two places at one time, so I don't know. Maybe you're two guys.
I don't know how I made it happen, but it seems like that. Yeah. It was funny, but because growing up, I was, a lot of people would say Tuman, and I would be like, no, it's Tuman, like a two-man bobsled.
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
There you go. Coming off the Olympics.
Well, you don't want to know how they pronounce my name, but anyway, yours is closer. Good to see you, brother. We had breakfast not long ago, and we haven't seen each other in years. So you're still alive and you're still healthy, fairly healthy
I think so.
For a young guy. But if you would just quit rooting for the Vikings, man, I tell you, the team is the Cowboys. It's America's team. You know that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to argue that. We both know that. Let's just leave it alone. But you're wearing your USAF hockey jersey.
Yeah, my USAF hockey jersey on. It's hockey season.
Yeah.
So pumped and excited for that.
I tell you, and both of us working at the Air Force Academy. I don't know what your experience was with Coach Frank, and the hockey team, but those guys were really good youngsters. I don't, and I was in character and leadership and honor and all that stuff. We never had honor cases with those guys, although I always told them, if you mess up, man, if you violate the code, I'll tell Frank. No, Chief, no, don't do that. Great coach. But anyway, so how long did you serve?
So I did 30 years. It was like 30 years and 7 days because you got to meet the end of the month requirement to retire. And I will tell you, it was everybody goes, wow, that's a long time. And I will tell you, 30 years goes by fast. It goes by so quick. And especially the last part of your career where you get to have not only an impact on your airmen, but an impact on leadership too. And so
we forget that, we forget that we have an impact on leaders, because that's now, were you a command chief or?
I was.
Okay.
I was a command chief at the 10th Air Base Wing there at the Academy. And then the 55th Wing at Offutt is where I retired.
Okay. Which means you worked a lot with the leaders, the generals and all that kind of stuff. And I think we sometimes forget as chiefs, Bryan, we forget that we do have an impact on them, and good or bad. I've always said, and especially with our cadets, I always admonish them to treat those airmen that you're going to be working with as a lieutenant, starting from a lieutenant and all of the NCOs, properly, respectfully, because it's a mutual thing. We take care of you, you take care of us. And sometimes, and I would tell the cops, especially on the gates, because Monday mornings, these cadets. They're cadets. They're 18 years old, and they're trying to sow your seeds and all that kind of crap. So just treat them right, because one day they are going to be your boss, and we should all respect each other. So,
that's right.
but
I
it gets crazy.
I think too, it's important to understand that when it comes to just leadership in general, sometimes I felt like it wasn't a 1-for-1 helping out. Like if you help your airmen out, they'll pay it back tenfold back to you.
Right.
And there's that kind of unbalanced leadership, that you're making sacrifices that your airmen sometimes they don't understand when you're in your commander's office and you're advocating for your airmen. They may not see it, and that's okay. They don't need to see it. But you're there advocating for them. And I think that, it does come around. You take care of your airmen and they take care of you.
Yeah. Well, that old saying that we don't know what we don't know. And when we're young, we don't know what the leaders, it's, like we're always bitching about the boss, right? No matter what, it's not right. I'm a musician. I think you know that. And I
Yeah.
always said in an orchestra of 100 people, there are 99 people that can conduct the orchestra better because but the conductor's got the job, because everybody complains about the conductor, about the boss, and all that kind of stuff, but they don't understand some of the stuff that goes behind. You're right, those doors that, and I may have told you, but the best advice I ever got when I made chief was from Chief Gwaltney. Uh, People ask me which what was his name? Chief. No. What was his first name? Chief. I don't know.
It is.
It was Chief Gwaltney, but he took me to aside, and he said, if you want to be an effective chief, Bob, you got to be willing to get your butt chewed at least once a week.
Yeah, so true.
And when you work at that level, and I know you went through it plenty of times, that happens, and you got to correct the boss and hopefully in the respectful way, but still, I don't know. I never knew. Well, no, I worked for one general who was always open to what we call feedback.
Sure.
But most other people, it was tough to tell the boss, "Hey, boss, you're messing up, man, or you're about to mess up, and you can go to jail if you do this," because they don't want to hear that. But you got to
Yeah,
do
I
it.
think the more that you do it, again, some conversations went better than others,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay. At the end of the day, I felt I had a place I needed to serve, and sometimes that means not agreeing with the boss, and that's okay. I think sometimes we think that you have to agree with your boss on everything, and well, that's what a door is for. You get to
Right.
close the door, you get to go behind closed doors and have a conversation, an honest conversation. Um, and you maintain your humility, you understand where you're at.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think I might have had one or two bosses that I kind of like bumped heads with, but every single one of them appreciated what I had to say and
Yeah.
the vision that I brought too,
Yeah.
because being on the enlisted side, we don't look like officers. Like we don't have the same experiences as officers. And I think it's, when the majority of the force is made up of enlisted, to have that representation in the commander's office is extremely important. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you got to have the heart to do it too, Brian.
Oh,
A
true.
lot. I don't want to say a lot, but I sometimes sense and sometimes I hear about some chiefs that are not willing to go toe to toe
Mm,
with anybody, with the boss. And especially when they're wanting to get promoted to command chief, with all due respect.
yeah.
But you got to be able to, you got to be willing to do that and take the knocks, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But and as far as the followers too, because I hope there's some followers listening that have not been, are not chiefs yet. But you got to support that idea that the chief went to bat for you, even if he or she lost. I remember one time I was a first sergeant, a master sergeant at Kieser, and and this was in the band. There's a story behind how I was a first sergeant with the band. But anyway, I went to the wing commander because the guys, we were on the road a lot, and they wanted BAH and they didn't get it. They had to be on the dorm, and the dorm, that made no sense because we were never there. But anyway, I went to the boss, to the colonel, and I had hurt myself, man. I hurt my back. I was on crutches.
Mm.
And I walk in there and make my pitch and all that. And it's funny. Colonel Bird was his name. And he says, First Sergeant, I can't say no to a cripple. I said, okay, sir, whatever it takes, man. And
There
he
you
said,
go.
yes, it's a blessing. Go. You got BAH. So I go back to my airmen and I bring them together. Hey, we got it. And then some of them say, we don't want to move. Do you know what I just went through
Oh,
to
yeah,
get
right.
the
Yeah, so true.
and really, no kidding,
So
Brian, I could
true.
not look that colonel in the face again, because I thought, here I went, I did my best. He was good enough to do his best, and now our airmen screwed it up. So it's like, as followers, I think we got to remember that I'm going to say at least 99% of the time the chief is fighting for you. Support him or her when he comes back and says, hey, the answer is no, because, and it's like money. People, especially when you're young, you don't realize there's different colors of money. You
That's
can't
right.
do that with that color of money, and
That's right.
you got to do it for this and all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge learning curve that sometimes we get wrapped around the axle for. So, but
Well, I think if I could just kind of point out when we talk you know, I'm kind of live by a three-pronged philosophy of row: relationships, optics, and words. They all matter.
Yeah.
And relationships is extremely important when you are going to bat for your airmen. When you're sitting in in your office or you're around the table with a bunch of chiefs, there has to be a level of trust that they understand you are advocating for them. But when you come out of that commander's office, you are in lockstep with the commander. And even if that decision didn't go your way, your other leaders, enlisted leaders, need to understand, hey, you have to trust me that I had this conversation, but I will come out and be in lockstep with the commander.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes difficult for folk. Oh, chief just gave in, or he lost the battle. Well, yeah, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to support and defend our commanders.
Exactly.
Um, and so it comes down to relationships and building that trust with your airmen and your fellow
Yeah.
chiefs.
And we as chiefs, chief, can't go out and say, I don't agree, but that's a killer, I think, because
Yeah,
now they're going to play. Remember that game? Let's you and him fight. Okay, the chief doesn't agree with the boss, so they're going to fight each other. Watch this. Hold my beer and watch this. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
no good for anybody. You come out of the room. This is what we're doing. Why? Because this is what we're doing.
That's
You know,
right.
you don't. I
That's
don't need to
right.
explain it to you. And again, followers don't need to have that explanation. You don't know enough. You can't understand. You know, in the academy, you know, when we used to, unfortunately, we got rid of some cadets for stuff, and there was always an argument about why they should be. Can't think of the term, but uh, thrown out of the academy. Well, you know, the generals know more about stuff than you do. They took it all under consideration and they did what they had to do
Sure.
as the leader and just
Right.
go with it because you know they know better. But you know, when you're immature, it's just tough to do. I know I was there. I was always complaining about the bosses why they got what they got, you know, and especially the chiefs. A parking space, chief. I want a parking space. You know, I think you know that I'm gonna what do they call it? I'm an honorary grad at the academy, and
Yeah.
I'm still looking for that parking space, man. Because
No, you
there
don't
should
have
be
it
one.
yet.
There should be one, don't you think?
I need to make a phone call.
Please do. Relationships. What was the O?
Optics.
Optics.
uh, and how people watch you. You know, I apologize. I didn't get all the way through your book. Got about halfway through it. And one of the chapters is people are always watching,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is where optics comes into play.
Mhm.
I will tell you, I think some of my greatest growth came just from watching other senior leaders,
Mm.
not being a part of the conversation, but sitting at the table or sitting in a room, a conference room, and just watching. And the optics that comes with that is extremely important because when you are out there showing the example, this is the kind of the leading by example, but showing the example. Um, I'll have to apologize. I'm probably out of regs in my. I didn't shave today, so. But it is the little things like that
Yeah.
uh, that your young airmen they see. And when you don't correct that behavior or you don't lead by example, oh well, hey, chief didn't do it, so
Right.
I don't have to do it.
Right. Well, you
Yeah,
know, and you may have heard me quick because I think you came to Vector a few times. Uh, People won't necessarily do what you say, but they'll always do what you
so
do.
true,
You know, and you
so
and I
true.
have both walked into a squadron, and within minutes we can tell what leaders are about, the leadership, the context, and all that kind of stuff, because they're
Yep.
doing what the bosses do, good or bad. And thank goodness most of the time it's good. But you know, they will do that because, and that's how we learn, Brian.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you're the product of your, and I think you have a couple of brothers and your dad and your mom. You know, you learned. I find myself. It's almost interesting that I find myself almost channeling my dad. You know, and I wrote a book about him.
Yeah.
What I learned from dad made me a better man. That we never had these conversations where you, even those that we're having one right now,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never sat down and said, Bob, you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. He just did it. I watched and I've become like him. And I hope, you know, you can judge better than I. I think I've become a fairly decent person based on the things that I saw my dad do. And the same thing with leaders, you know, it's it's almost funny going into a squadron and knowing like the chief and watching others do the same things as the chiefs do. It's like, well, you guys like are parents, you're the parent and you're the children,
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. So, yeah, the optics part is important. And like the book says, you're always on parade. Yeah, somebody's watching you, especially now. It's almost scary that Big Brother's around anywhere. And when something bad happens, that's a good thing. But when it's not happening, it's like, okay, don't be looking at me.
Yeah.
There,
And I do think it's a little bit of our nature, just the human nature to try to find fault. And I remember this. We were at a commander's call and I was up on stage with the commander, and the commander's up on stage with his hand in his pocket.
mm,
Okay.
it's okay
Well,
now. It's okay now.
yeah.
Just so you know that because
Right.
that bugs the crap out of me too. But it's okay now.
Yeah. And so when your airmen come to you and like, hey, the boss has his hand in his pocket, like, does he get to pick and choose what stand? No, right? And so then you have that conversation, but somebody is watching all the time, and it's a great. I thought that nugget in your book was spot on.
Yeah. Well, and on the other hand, and I think it's in the book as well, Brian, we got to take care of each other. I remember going to McGuire doing a ALS or some kind of fancy ball and all that with my mess dress and all that. And I was wearing this bow tie that was flimsy. And I'm getting ready to do my talk, before the event starts. And I talked to, I don't know, hundreds of people until one colonel comes up to me and introduces himself. And I say, hey, sir, how you doing? He says, Chief, do you know that you're not wearing a tie? What? It had fallen off, man.
Oh,
Way back there. I looked back and it was way back there. And no one
oh,
told me.
yeah,
That hurt. Hey,
yeah,
I'm not a bad guy. Just tell me, Chief, there's your tie. Put it
right,
on, So we
right.
got to take care of each other as well. Keep watching for each other and not let
Right.
us do stupid stuff. But the relationships, optics, and what was the third one?
Words, words
Words.
matter.
Eh, Now, I'm a wordsmith because I write a lot.
I
And
do.
some of the words that we use, man, they freak me out. Um, one of my pet peeves right now is bandwidth. And I know that's not a new word because,
Oh,
people say, hey, that's old school now, Chief. I know. But bandwidth, I was on the radio, that at the academy. I
yeah,
did radio work. I was a musician. I'm still, I guess, a musician. But bandwidth has to do with, a real bandwidth,
yeah,
not time.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. Really, I don't want to be on the radio.
yeah.
I just want 5 minutes of your time. So anyway, some of the words are, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not that I'm getting crotchety though. Okay, you don't
Oh,
even know
well,
what
I'm there.
crotchety.
I'm there. It was one of those two kinds of towards the end of my the end of my career. The one that really got me was life balance. I didn't
Mm.
even know what that is. Life will never be in balance,
No, no.
especially when you're serving in the military.
Oh, yeah.
You took an oath to support and defend, and I will tell you, there are some days that the Air Force got more than my family, and there were
Yeah.
some days that my family got more than the Air Force.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it will never be in balance. If you think about it, a balance shows you where you're out of balance and
Mm.
what you need to do to correct it.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, if you're looking for this kind of like even keel, uh, you're not going to have it. You're not going
Yeah.
to find it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
we envision it, I think, Brian, as the scales of justice. We see that picture. We've seen that, where
yeah,
it is 50-50. And I tell people it's more really like being on a balance beam. If you've ever been on a balance beam, while you're on it, you're always teetering and tottering
that's
one
right.
way or the other. That's the way life is. So some days, yeah, it'll be more like this. Some days it'll be, and not really days, moments. In this moment,
Moments.
I'm going this
So
way. In this
true.
moment, I'm going this way. In life now, man, it's going. Oh man, I know you're young and you're at the speed of all of this that's happening, but man, I can't keep up, man. It's just
Yeah.
too much, and it's I guess change. It's not progress, it's change. The other word that bothers me is pivot. Although I don't know if you
Oh,
know Lugo Santiago, Chief Lugo Santiago. He
hmm.
reminded me the other day that, hey, Chief, we use that term in basic training, pivot. We're doing commands.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. So maybe my perspective will change a little bit, but nonetheless, you're always constantly changing one direction or
Sure.
the other. And then when you have kids, I think you have what, two, three?
I have three boys, all
Okay,
dudes.
boys, that's right. Oh, especially them, man. As soon as you think you got them figured out,
Yeah,
no, that's different. So,
yeah, that's right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you're right. Words do matter, and I'll tell you, I grew out of it. I think for several reasons, Brian. But some of the words that we use are not professional. You know,
Mm,
they are, I think, embarrassing. You know, there's a lot of words that we use that we don't even realize that are not the right words. There at the academy, I always ask, especially the cadets from other countries, I'd
yeah.
always ask them,
Oh,
can I say this in front of you? Because I don't want to offend you, but this is how we talk usually. And I'm an old guy, so sometimes I say stupid stuff that offends people, and I don't even realize it. But you tell me, and I won't do it anymore, you know. But the words that we use and how we use them, you know, uh, they can be pretty offensive pretty quickly.
yeah, right. Yeah, and I think too is in today where words take on new meanings, new words just come into
Yeah,
uh, it just come into being.
yeah.
And that's why it's important to I call it mastering the language. You really need to, and you get that by reading. I
No,
know Colonel Campbell was the General Campbell was the my commander at the 10th, and he was big on leaders of readers and would
mhm.
send out this email like once a week with just different articles and that. And it is so true that leaders are readers, but I also say leaders are writers. You yourself included. You need to learn to write more. Um, I think it's pretty easy. I think people can pick up a book on a plane or their iPad or whatever, but taking the time to actually write is extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've lost that art.
We
People
have.
can't do it anymore or don't do it. I don't know. I guess either one. And yeah, I absolutely. And I think you told me you're going to write a book.
I am
Okay, so now it's public.
working on.
So you better, man, because
Now I have it. It's a
I'm gonna be at the airport over at DIA. People, is Tuman written this book? People are gonna come up to me, Brian. So
oh, that's
you
great.
better get on it, man, because it's public now.
I like it.
It's evidence.
I
But
like it.
I've helped. I think I have 4 people that I'm working with this year that are writing, and that's beautiful. And they all start kind of timid. Well, I don't know what to do. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Just write. You know,
Yeah. Yep.
write
You're
me
right.
an email with what you want to say, and we'll compile it. There's obviously a way to do all this stuff. I've done it for 20 or 30 times, but and I help you, but do it, do it.
Yeah.
But as far as
I'm
words,
excited.
life was so good when we all knew what groovy meant, man. This probably before your time. I know. Shut up.
A little bit, a little
Be
bit.
respectful. Be respectful. But well, it's and of course with marketing getting as strong as it is and just
Yeah.
everywhere. They make up words or adjust words. And now I do it myself anymore. Air power, HEIR power.
Yeah.
People say, hey, that's kind of cool. Or some people, what? Don't worry about it. Just don't read the book. So, but you're right. Words have, and here's the deal. I think with words, Brian, is they uh, they are the method that we use to say what we think.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, I didn't mean that. No, you did. You
Yeah.
just said it. You
Yeah.
said it when you shouldn't have said it, and maybe you shouldn't have meant it, but you
Right.
did mean it. It came out of
Yeah.
your brain through your
Yeah.
mouth and through your heart and all that stuff. So we got to be careful with that. And like you just said, and people are watching, they're listening.
That's right.
Yeah, the chief says the F word every other word. It's like they're paying attention to that stuff,
Yeah.
and again, that is probably offensive to most people, especially in different places. So,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
30 years, man. Good years
Oof.
though, right?
Oh, great
What
years.
did you
Yeah.
do in those 30 years? Were you cop? Were you a cop? No, you weren't a cop.
No, I was a medic. I started out as a medic.
Medic, yeah, that's
Uh,
right. A medic,
Get
yeah.
this, get this, Chief. I started out my medical career at March Air Force Base in 1993, working in the delivery room. I delivered babies
Oh my
as
gosh.
my first job.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was an interesting start to my military career.
Mm,
And just over the course of it, spent probably about 9 or 10 years, I think, in the medical community off and on. I taught PME at Kadena there at the Irwin Center. and then moved on to being a first sergeant. Was a first sergeant for a little over 8 years,
Yeah.
and that was just the ultimate privilege
Yeah.
to wear the diamond and be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you that I was at March in '93. I was a commandant at the
Yeah,
NCO Academy at the time when Airman Tuman showed up, and
that's
then we
right.
closed it down. Your
Yeah,
fault, man. It's your fault.
it
You
is.
built
It
this
is. I
great
was
Marine hospital, and then Tuman showed up, and we closed it down.
Yeah, we put the padlock on that and shut her down. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, I'll drive by it. My wife's from out in California, and we'll drive out to March or Moreno Valley there, and I'll drive by the base. And
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look the same.
no,
They don't.
hospital's down. They destroyed the hospital.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
It's been several years since I've been there, but yeah, it's a shame because it was such a beautiful
Yeah.
spot, a beautiful place. But yeah, that's the way it goes. So, what's your best advice for a new chief? Chief, brand new Chief Tuman is putting on his stripe. In fact, they are doing it right now, and seniors
Yeah.
just came out. So great, congratulations to all the senior master sergeants, the new folks. But what's your best advice for a chief to be successful and effective?
Yeah, again, congratulations to all the chiefs. A tremendous accomplishment in your career. I think the one piece, and we talked a little bit about this at the breakfast the other day, is you don't become a chief when you sew on or Velcro on or whatever chief. You learn to be a chief before that. And for some of you, if you haven't had that opportunity to have a solid chief mentor, you got to find yourself one. It's too important for your airmen. We kind of we called it the Great Stripe Giveaway of 2001, where it was like E5, E6, E7, they all got promoted, and all I heard from my bosses were, "You made it too early. You shouldn't have. You don't know what you're doing. You're not a leader." But I was fortunate enough to have a master sergeant put their arm around me and say, "You're not ready, but I'm going to make you ready."
Yeah.
And so when we talk about coaching and we talk about mentorship, and that's part of that relationship that comes into play. Um, you really need to learn to be a chief before you're a chief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not something that you're trying to you try to aspire to be. You take care of your airmen, everything else falls into place. The Air Force will catch up to you when you take care of your airmen.
Yeah.
But that was probably the greatest lesson that I learned was sit and watch optics. Watch the chief, how he talks at the table, how she talks to airmen, how she represents herself. And so a lot of that informal kind of leadership, just watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's on the followership side, Chief, but on the leadership side as well, find those youngsters, even lieutenants. You and I were in this business for
Right.
a few years. Those lieutenants, you would be amazed, Chief, how much crap I got when I started teaching at the Air Force Academy.
Really?
Yeah, you went to the other side. You're teaching officers. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm teaching them to be good officers
Yeah.
and to respect the chief because in those times when I was there, you had to come through me. You had to graduate from my course, or you had to finish my course to graduate. Which I thought that's the way we should start lieutenants, going through the chief and then eventually graduating. But those youngsters, I had some. I won't say a lot, but a few mentors who came up to me and said, "Hey, come here, let me help you." I didn't know them, and and especially with the youngsters, they're afraid of the chiefs.
That's right.
To some degree. I've never seen a chief. Oh my gosh, what is this? Well, come here, sir. Come here, airman. Let me help you. And I think it's incumbent upon us to teach them what we already know. And even the seniors, the senior master sergeants, the master sergeants. Hey, let me help you become a chief.
That's right.
Sometimes it's gotten. I don't know that it's true, but it seems like it's gotten to the point where the people are afraid to help each other. No, help each other because you're not going to stay here very long. Like you just said a while ago, 30 years goes quickly, and before you know
So
it, you're
fast.
out of here. So what is it? Succession? What? Some kind of succession, something or other, where you got to. Well, that's what we used to do in PME. You may remember we used to say our job is to work ourselves out of a job.
That's right.
Teach that one person or two or whatever who are coming behind you so that you can go on. And if we all do it, we're going to get better. So things have changed. But now, do you get to hang around airmen and military people anymore in the job that you do?
Not as much as I'd love to. I've really kind of transitioned to the kind of the private sector. But I will tell you, they are just as thirsty in the private sector for leadership as they are in the military.
Yeah. Huh.
And I can tell you that, sometimes we take it for granted in the military because we've been around for a couple hundred years. Some of our brothers and sisters in other color uniforms.
Yeah.
But we've come to a place where it's just automatic how we kind of train our replacement. Right? This is the life cycle of an airman.
Yeah.
You go to basic training, then you go to tech school, and then you go to 5-level, and so, whatever that looks like. And every step of the way, we're going to send you to some major university to get some leadership school or something. And we're very good about growing. And that's not the case in the private sector. They don't necessarily have a lot of deliberate development, professional development. And so that was one of the kind of the feathers that I ruffled when I kind of came in and said, what do you want to do in 3 years? Like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I'm new, so I'm just trying to learn. I'm trying to absorb the culture. And they're like, well, nobody's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so it just really kind of changed the philosophy in kind of the industry that I work in now of just, hey, how do you grow your replacement? What does that look like? How do we take care to make sure that we're not leaking talent, that they're not going to somebody else? How do we retain that? And so, yeah, kind of opened some eyes a little bit there in the sector, but
yeah. Wow, interesting. I'd never heard that. I thought it was not. I thought it was. I never knew that was the case. So maybe I'll start selling myself again. You remember those days. Anyway, be respectful.
Yeah. That's right.
Be respectful. Okay.
That's right.
Well, thank you for being on the show, brother, and thanks for your friendship. I appreciate it. I love you, man, and I hope that we can get together more often, and especially now. Maybe I'll call you every week and say, "How's the book coming?"
I love it.
All right.
Make it happen. Hold me accountable. Hold me accountable.
Okay. Again, it's public now, man. So when I smack you upside the head, I got evidence that you told me to.
I love it. I love you, brother.
God bless you, brother.
Yep. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you've gained something from this episode that will empower you to become a more effective leader. If you'd like to connect with us, please do so via our website at leadershipandforesight.org. The book So You Want to Be the Chief is available on Amazon.com and on Apple Books. This podcast is powered by the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight.